Welcome everybody to a very special edition of The Grass is Greener with Paul Green. I'm your host, Paul Green, and my guest today is the incomparable freedom alchemist herself, Kate Austin. So Kate, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Paul Green.
Yeah, all this time here in our house, and this is my first time having you on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's about time.
It probably is.
I think we've got some really good things to talk to you about today. Kate is a freedom alchemist, which means, do you want to explain a little bit? So you've developed this business called Freedom Alchemist. Some of our viewers will know who you are. Kate is my fiancée and baby mama as well. We have a little one on the way for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So I love, what I love to bring on to my podcast is really interesting thinkers, people who think outside the box, highly successful people who also are able to share with you some of their tools and some of their experiences of what helps them live a life they love.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that attracted me to Kate Austin was her incredible zest for life and your positivity, and I think it's why we get along really well, is we both kind of wake up on the good side of the rock. And living a life that you love is something I'm committed to sharing with you. So Kate and I are going to be sharing just a few of the tools that makes Kate's also an NLP practitioner and a strategic intervention coach, trained at the Tony Robbins Academy, and some other good things about you. Why don't you just let them know who you are? I know who you are from me, which is love, but you want to share.
Yeah, well, a little bit, as your earlier question is, what is the Freedom Alchemist really about?
Mm-hmm.
And similarly to Paul, freedom is my MO in life. It drives everything. Every decision, every thought, everything I want to do is all based around freedom. Now, some people that is different. It's comfort or it's security or things like that. But we really bonded over this mutual love of freedom. And I really noticed a few years ago there was a lot of anger or people feeling left behind in the world and really feeling a lack of freedom, a lack of choice. And that's what inspired me to create the Freedom Alchemist. And what a Freedom Alchemist is someone that can transmute something from one thing to another thing in a seemingly magical way. So when we think about alchemy of Jesus turning water into wine, or some of the people that turned things into gold, like stones into gold, and that's alchemy, and it seems magic, but there's usually something behind it that leads to it. And so I'm truly committed that people experience what freedom is for them, because it's a unique experience for every person and it's different for every person. So, but that they have access to it and they have choice to choose freedom every day. And so that's where the Freedom Alchemist was born and came from. And we're now 4 years.
4 years in. I just dropped the remote and I forgot to turn the fan off. So we'll just turn the fan off. It's hot in here, but I'm for the sake of sound. Yes, we've been doing our courses, the Freedom Alchemist courses,
3.5, 4 years.
And what you alchemize is people's pain into purpose too, and you not just you, but you share with them the tools on how to do that, and how to turn their story into something that's a power, or their victim into something of being powerful, and alchemizing pain into power, really, and purpose.
Yeah, exactly, because we all experience pain, and it's the resistance of experiencing that pain that truly breaks our hearts, that truly has us live with this feeling of like everything's hard and life is hard and all of these things, when really it's our perspective of what pain is, or what these situations is, or what we made something mean that happened to us. And so when we can start looking at it from new, fresh eyes and new perspective, we really can turn our pain into our purpose or our power, either one. So,
I just love that. Kate and I met 7 years ago, and one of the big things I was struggling with was commitment at the time. And we both discovered this amazing tool that commitment equals freedom. And I had that commitment and freedom were in opposition, and that commitment was confinement. But every other area of my life, commitment was freedom, with my body or music or acting. The more I committed to something, the more free I got. But somehow in relationships, I had that commitment was not freedom. That commitment was confinement.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kate and I have had this incredible relationship, the longest relationship I've been in, the best relationship I've been in. We're engaged with a little baby coming. And, you know, there's always this big question out there is like, how do you know if you found your soulmate? Or can you know if you found your soulmate?
Or is there such
a thing? So
as
I'm
a
actually
soulmate?
really curious. What do you think?
Well, I believe yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I also believe that might not necessarily be combined to one person. Now, that doesn't mean there's tons of them out there, but what it can mean is that if you find a soulmate and then that time is cut short for any time, it doesn't mean that it's done for you, that there's still possibility that there's several people that are potentially our person. And I think what needs to be debunked is we have these ideas and ideals of what a soulmate is, and it's fed to us through Disney, through Hallmark. You know, we think, oh, we're just gonna know, and all the sparks will fly, and there'll be all these butterflies and fireworks, and we'll just know that that is our soulmate because their energy will make it clear. When it's truly not that. Usually it is work, and it is layers of recognizing, and it's self-work. Because, I mean, let's talk about us. We didn't have that, you know, we were like, oh.
We didn't have that initial, crazy
like,
spark.
He's cute, you know, she's cute, you know, it was just like, it was very casual. It was not like, oh my goodness.
This is it. This is my soulmate.
This is my person.
Yeah.
You know, and
maybe it's like you can create your person.
You really can, and it's with generous listening, and it's with, you know, really looking at your own skeletons and demons, and the way you were brought up, and the way you knew love to be from your parents, and it's really unpacking the beliefs and ideals that you have, and not imposing them on someone else. Because so often when we meet someone, we throw on them all this baggage about previous relationships. Like, if we've been cheated on before,
right,
then we're waiting for that person to cheat on us, or we're looking for them to mess up so you can be like, ha, you're gonna cheat on me.
Or like with you, I was projecting on you my past relationships so that you weren't showing up as Kate. In my perspective, in my projection of you, you were showing up. When you would act a certain way, I'd be like, oh, that's like my ex. And you didn't really stand a chance because I had all this stuff between us of past relationships that I was putting on you.
And he kept waiting for the shoe to fall, the other shoe. He's like, anytime I would act anything other than perfect,
I'd be like, that's it, the shoe's falling.
Yeah, the shoe's falling. I gotta get out. I gotta
get
protect
out while
myself.
I can. Yeah, that's true.
And it's also, you know, especially, this is for the women, you know, when men waver, how can you be the steady one? Like, if you have to take turns in being the rock for the other person, because there's never a time in a relationship where it's all just easy sailing forevermore. Like, you're going to be easy sailing, and then something will happen, and something will waver, or someone, like a fear comes up, or a vulnerability comes up, and it reignites something. And so if you get totally rocked, if your boat gets rocked because the other person is unsteady, then that's when the whole ship can overturn. You have to be able to take turns in really holding the fort and being the rock and being the one that's like, okay, I got you. I'm allowing you to have this experience, and I'm not going to project all of my fears that it's bringing up in me because you're having this experience, because it's never about you. It's usually about, and sometimes it is, when you're in a relationship, but it's usually something within themselves that they need to heal or move through. And if you don't give that person that space to have that emotion and to have that healing, then it remains unhealed and unspoken about until this chasm forms. And then you're more and more apart, and you're like, how did we get here?
Right, Siberia. Like, how did we get in this land of unloving?
And no communication and repulsion. Repulsion. Like Paul and I, early in our relationship, it was actually quite cute because we nicknamed it Siberia when we'd get to the point where we were both like, ew, don't want to like look at you, be around you. And we'd actually say, oh, here we are in Siberia. Right. And it would cut the ice of like that feeling of grossness. And then there'd be an access for us to sort of start looking at how did we get to Siberia and what's behind it? What's having this repulsion be there?
Right. And so here's what I'm hearing too is about soulmates is yes and no. Like, yes, maybe there's not just one, maybe there's more than one opportunity, but it sounds to me that even if you were with your soulmate, there's work to be done. Like, we have found some really helpful things, like you touched on polarity. So David Data is the way of the superior man, understanding how masculine and feminine polarity either have you to attract one another or repulse, and then understanding the 5 love languages. There's so many tools along the way that maybe this is, and I'm just discovering this, like, yes, there might be somebody that your soul is just kindred to, but there still needs to be nurtured, and there's work to be done to have your past relationships not continually be affecting the one you're in.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people really do a list of everything that they have to have, and they try and force people into that list, but then they're not looking at themselves and going, am I the greatest version of myself that wants to be in this relationship, that's showing up for this relationship? We're waiting for them to be amazing first, and then we can. But we're going to keep all our walls up and our guards up, like, and wait for them to mess up. And if they pass all those tests, then you might show up as yourself. But that's not how it works.
Right. You're like holding them hostage.
Yeah. And this is what people do. So many people are taught that if you have a fight with your partner, then you give them the cold shoulder and you be nasty. Right. And it's like, when has anyone been cold shoulder and nasty to you and that's made you want to open your heart and be beautiful with them? It just isn't the way. Yet everybody does it. Like, it's like the unconscious way of dealing with a conflict. And then it's like we wonder why relationships don't work. Or things get to a point where they're so far and you're like, there's no way back from this. We've like iced each other out. And so every time when you get to that, you have to stop yourself and say, what do I want in this moment? Do I want to teach them a lesson? Right. Or do I want them to love me? Do I want them to experience love? Right. And do I want them to experience love? Yeah. So if you take it away from the me, and think about the we or the them, like when you put your attention away from yourself and onto them, you can make better decisions, make better choices.
Quite often we just make it so much about ourselves, and it's like bad acting too. Like, we're both actors, and when you make it narcissistic acting, or your feelings and your emotions as an actor, you're not taking in the other person. And in life, it's so similar. It's like we're so focused on ourselves that we're not even taking in the other person.
I love this.
Right.
I love this analogy.
Yeah.
Because how many times have we lived out an argument or a fight or how it was supposed to go, and then when it doesn't go that way, we attack the other person. So we call that expectations are resentments under construction.
Yeah, one of our great teachers, that was her favorite. Can you pass me the water there?
Yeah.
One of our teachers, Jen Herta, that was her thing. It's like, expectations are resentments under construction. It stuck with us.
Yeah. So, when you plan a day and it's supposed to be amazing and perfect, and then it doesn't go the way you want. Actually, I want to give an example for our viewers here. We were in Paris, and we had this final night.
Oh my goodness.
And we were supposed to, we were going to get on this boat and we were going to go to restaurants and we were going to do all these things. And then Paul was like, I'm going to bring my guitar. And so in his mind, he was going to be serenading me and doing all this. But in my mind, I'm like, well, it's like there's a third person, because how do we get on and off boats and have freedom and be snuggly and be able to be connected to each other if we're carrying a guitar the whole night? And so instead of having this beautiful night that we both wanted the other one to experience, because we had in our mind how it was going to go, we both pooped all over each other's parade and had the worst night, full of
shut down and the other shoe was falling, and it was
miserable. And then we didn't do any of the boats, we didn't do any of the serenading, we didn't do any of the things that either one of us wanted. So nobody got what they wanted, and everyone was miserable. Well, the two of us were miserable, and here we were in the city of love on our final night, ready to paint the town red, and we were just red-faced and miserable. So I wanted to give you a visceral example of how that our expectations of what we wanted, and because what we wanted was the same thing. We wanted to have this romantic, magical night, but our expectations were different, and so we ruined each other's nights because nobody got their expectations met. And how many times I want you to think about when you do that, when you imagine your husband's meant to come home and see that you've cooked and be so grateful and this is amazing, I can't believe I'm so lucky. But instead he comes home and he's still thinking about his day and work, and he's exhausted, and he doesn't want to talk to you because he's been talking all day, and he just wants to sit in front of the TV. And so you can imagine, he imagined just being able to relax. You imagine you having a romantic, beautiful dinner, and everyone gets thwarted. And, and this is so many of examples like this. And then you're like, this isn't my soulmate, because my soulmate would not do that.
Right. Rather than just that's not his love language, or understanding masculine, feminine, that masculine, after working in a feminine environment, and wants to sometimes come home and just do nothing for a minute, which is very masculine, and then understanding love languages, you might be wanting, yours might be physical touch, and you're touching all over your husband, and his just might be words of affirmation or something, and you're like, give me some space, soulmate. Soulmate. Yeah, it's funny. One of my movies, Christmas Detour, the whole premise of the joke was when she sits down next to me like this, and Candace Cameron's character had written that article on, is this your finding your soulmate, and I'm like, soulmate. And she's like, what? And it was this whole conversation that we're having right now. It's like we're on an airplane diverted to Buffalo. But it's such a fun conversation, soulmate, and I think it's just, maybe there is, but when you find that person, you still get to keep working on yourself and creating yourself so that you show up as a partnership. And there's such a big distinction between a relationship and a partnership.
There really is. And I want to throw in a little bit of our history, because I think this is fun as well.
More history, more than Paris. Do you want some, by the way?
Sure.
It's quite wet.
Water being wet. Is that an expectation?
It is, but it is met. A met expectation.
So Paul and I actually broke up 4 times. We weren't even together. We weren't even saying we were together, yet we needed to break up 4 times. Now, I think most of you would be like, if it's not my soulmate, if we break up, that's it, Right. But the thing that happened was we weren't significant about the breakups. We were both so casual. It was almost like there was so much stuff in our way that we couldn't even see who the real person was behind it. And so it was easy to be like, okay, well, you do you, I'll do me, no worries. So there was no hurt or anger or resentment thrown at the other person. It's like, it didn't work out. That's okay. And yet we would see each other again and we would pretend to like be like, oh, cool. But somehow we'd end up like
the end of the night, we're like
gravitating to each other again. And it was actually, it was a time we had broken up and we'd been apart for, I don't know, a month or something. You'd gone to shoot a film, and we felt complete. We felt complete. I wasn't there pining over him. It was just what it was. And I went on this extraordinary date, this beautiful date that was like everything. And I panicked afterwards, after the glow of this amazing date. I panicked. And it was almost like there was this I was at a traffic light, and I remember it really clearly, and there was this little voice in my head that came from, who knows, an angel, who knows, right? That said, I don't think you're finished with Paul. I don't think you're complete with Paul. And I'm like, where did this come from? I like haven't thought about him, like this is ridiculous. But it was something there that kept pulling us back together. And then once we really said what we truly wanted was like, hey, I don't want to be casual. I don't want to be like not really in this. Like I was like, I want to be with someone I can go away on vacations with and weekends and have fun with and just see. And then he was like, that's what I want too. And that was after the 4th time. Now, most people would be mortally offended if they broke up 4 times and think that there was some issue. But it's like sometimes these things have kinks that you have to work out. And so the thing is don't just meet someone and be like, they're not my person. Or no, it's not, the chemistry isn't right. Or this isn't right. Or that isn't right. Because we're all looking for what's wrong. Like, look, try and pull out the magic in what is right about them.
And now, is there a point when someone should get out of it? So, like assuming everyone here is looking for love and soulmate, and if you're in a relationship, you've probably found our video because you want to add some depth and some richness and some extra juiciness to your relationship, which Kate and I teach a course that we have a big relationship part to it. So, Kate, is there a point where people should give up on the relationship and be like, okay, this is not my person? Like, how do they know when they're not exiting too early? Like, obviously abuse, physical or emotional abuse. But is there a time? Because, how maybe somebody's wondering, like, how do I know how far to keep trying? And, like, it's such a deadly trap to try to wait till someone changes. You can't, for someone's potential, like being in a relationship or marrying somebody for their potential is an expectation that's going to build the building of resentment. But how do people know?
That's the thing. So many people, stay with someone or marry someone because they can see who they get to be at their greatest points. But let's give an example of maybe someone that's an addict in some way, whether addicted to smoking, addicted to alcohol, addicted to drugs, whatever it is, right? But whenever they're not doing that, they are extraordinary. But their habitual nature is to keep doing it, and you believe that you can save them or that you can change them. And that is not a thing. You can't be with someone because you believe you can change them. People have to want to change themselves. So that's something there. And yes, if you have to keep renegotiating what it is that you want in this life, and having basic things like a partner that cares about you or that shows up for you, and just things like that. If you have to keep being like, well, making excuses for them over and over and over, and there's no change or no shifts happening when you're having good communication, then that is like a red flag. And like, obviously anyone ever hits you, it's just done. It's very hard to come back from something like that, and it does grow, unfortunately. And I know some people they'd hit rock bottom if I left. Some people need to hit rock bottom to get to the point where they're not going to do that. It's not our jobs to save people of the world, but it's our jobs to show up and love people in a way that they get to see who they are. They get to remember who they are.
Right.
And I think that is probably the best definition of, if you think you found your soulmate, is they help you to remember who you truly are.
I love that.
And they bring out the magic of you. And when you're around them, you're your best self. You know, when some people, like, they make you feel really funny or really smart or really fabulous, you know, and I'm not saying you need to, like, that needs to be what it is, but, you know, when you feel like you're at home or at peace or there's a calm, it's, you know, it's very subtle, these things that define someone as a soulmate that's really there. And these people have to push you a bit. They push your buttons, they trigger you, they make you want to grow as a better person. Now, this doesn't mean being critical and berating you, that's different. But really pushing you so you can elevate yourself. Like, that is something, because in a great partnership, your fusion and the freedom of your fusion keeps making you both better. And there's periods when you're getting better that things feel horrible and not so great and super uncomfortable. But it's willing to go down that journey together and keep showing up for one another. That has it be. And there's going to be moments where one person's out. You know, one of my favorite things was, I was listening to an interview when I was young of this couple that were in their 90s, and they'd been together for 80 years. And someone said, what's the trick? What's the magic trick of being in love for 80 years, or wanting to be around someone for 80 years? And they just simply said, we didn't fall out of love at the same time. And you're going to fall out of love. You're going to be lust over somebody else. You're going to, you know, we're human beings. We get turned on and off by different things all the time. But it's, how do we come back? And how does that person support the other one when they're wobbling? You know, so that you can both keep coming back to that common goal of where your vision is and what you're creating for your lives.
And you just touched on it, a vision. Like, we just worked with some great coaches too around creating a relationship vision as the third pillar to your relationship. So there's you and me, and then there's this thing that we stand for, and this vision that's made up of our values and also of our dreams and our talents and our gifts that we want to give. And it's like, so when in our coaches shared with us something that I never thought of, but compromise is actually the worst relationship advice you can give.
And everyone tells you it's the best.
Everyone's like, yeah, relationship.
As long as you're willing to compromise, you'll be okay.
And that sounds terrible. That means she's getting what she wants, and I'm getting less of what I want, or vice versa. And whether you feel it or not, there's a tiny resentment being born and being planted. So to create, one of the ways to, if you're trying to decide what movie to watch, and I don't want to watch, say, a movie she wants to watch, and I compromise, I'm going to sit there and be like, ugh. Like, even though I think I'm making her happy, which is not my job.
And then I'm not going to enjoy the movie because I know he's unhappy.
So creating a vision, what have I got?
You got a little speck on your nose.
A speck. Maybe there's a speck bird up there. Creating a vision, and as almost like a mission statement or a place to go back to, like, this is what we stand for. Like, we stand for freedom and fun and play and making a difference for others.
Yeah.
Whoops. And so how instead of going, like, where are we going for dinner? I'd be like, I don't know, what do you want? It's like, I don't know, what do you want? Like, as a man, it's really fun to be able to say, like, let's go for Italian, and I'm really feeling like Italian, and this is in the masculine feminine polarity to help decision making. Like, and a woman can be in her masculine too once in a while and be like, we're gonna go for sushi, and then the man can relax and be like, all right, let's go for sushi, rather than, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? And that becomes so unattractive, and you start to repulse. But then even another guiding ship here is your vision. It's like, who are we? What is our third leg on this tripod? And for a lot of people, they've put God as that tripod. Like, we are this relationship, and God is the three chords in this. We've heard of a 3-strand cord can't be broken in the tripod, but I'm asking you to even create, and I'm inquiring, like, what some people, that is their vision, like maybe God, spirituality, religion feels like that third pull for them.
Well, I want to say this, like, that it can still be true, because when we imagine what God wants for us or wants us to be, there is a very clear vision.
Right. That's right.
And so if you're leaning towards like being godly or living this spiritual godlike life, there is a vision of yourself that you're creating in God's image. Yeah. So you can use that as a pillar and as a couple.
I love that. I'd never thought of it exactly like that.
Right? Because it's like, it's not just God and we're like, oh, whatever he wants. It's like we have an image of what he wants us to be, and that's what guides our decisions. Mm-hmm. Now, it can be God, it could be spirit, it could be universal, but we like to, like, you can have it as God, but have it as the vision, because there is a vision attached to how we really would like things to go. And so Paul does this beautiful exercise where he gets people to close their eyes. Actually, do it. The old man or old woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is how to create a vision for your body, because...
But it can be your whole life.
Right. Yes.
Let's just do your whole life.
Well, this came to me actually at a Tony Robbins conference where I was sitting in a group of 5,000 people, and it wasn't Tony, but it was the man who did his Sunday at UPW, which is Unleash Power Within, and it was the fitness day, and he said, close your eyes and imagine an 80-year-old man.
So do it now.
Up on stage. Yeah. So do it. Close your eyes. Imagine an 85-year-old man on stage.
Or a woman.
Or a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that person look like? Are they bent, hunched over? Are they tired? Are they lethargic?
Are they in a nursing home?
Yes. And so he had everybody get their image. And then he said, open your eyes. And on stage was an 83-year-old man with Speedos on, and he was a bodybuilding champion. Like, he had a six-pack, and he had big muscles, big, beautiful gray hair. And it really hit home to us. I was like, wow, like, what vision are you living into in your relationships, for your physical body? In our course that we do, I handle the body vision stuff, and also just introducing tools for longevity and feeling great as you age. I'm 62 years old. I'm not. I'm 55. I'm not. I'm a little younger than that. But still, what vision are you living into? And creating a vision, and I'm so glad we actually landed on this, because I got so much out of the Evolving Love thing from our coaches about the vision and, like, what do we stand for?
Yeah. Like, and if your vision of yourself as an old person is sitting in front of a TV like this, hunched over, hoping that people come to visit you, and being lonely, or what, like, if that's your vision, because that's how you see old people, that's where you're going. So it's like, you need to be very conscious and specific about how you view older people and what they're capable of. I've heard of a man recently in his 90s that just got his law degree. Right. In his 90s. I mean, is he going to go practice law? Who knows, right? But his mind is so astute, and all the young kids loved him. Yeah. He just had such an outlook on life of joy and, like, creation, and people be like, why would you want to do that, all that study? But why not? He's like keeping his mind alive. You use it or you lose it. And that's with your mind, your body, your heart, all of it.
That's true.
You close off your heart, you're going to be lonely, you're going to be shut off. Yeah, you might be safe, but are you going to enjoy it? No. So really having that vision of who you get to be as you age, and that vision of you with your partner. Right. Now, if you don't have a partner, this is perfect. Now, we're not talking about a Disney movie. We're not talking about all the sparkles and this, and everything, like, Hallmark, everything falls into place perfectly. Life is messy and unpredictable. But if you are steady in who you get to be for the other person, you get to be for you, that's when things can really open up and evolve for you.
So true.
Yeah. Now we also have an amazing tool.
What?
For people that are in a relationship or that are coming into a relationship that can help with really hashing out these incongruencies or things that don't work. Now, the number one thing that cuts us off from having the love that we want is when we start to withhold. Mm-hmm. When we withhold our love, or we don't tell them that something they do, really bugs us a lot, or something's like, and we call it the 3% rule. Mm-hmm. So there might be 97% amazing, but the 3%, it's like, it really gets my goat, or it really is really like, I hate that part of them, or that makes me feel uncomfortable, or whatever that is. But then we're like, it's just 3%, I'll just ignore it. And then, but that 3% then grows to 4%, 5%, 10%, 20, and over a space of time, that 3% has become the 97%. Yeah. And you no longer can see what was good about them. And so it festers.
You're right. You begin to focus on what you don't like rather than focusing on what you do like. It's like just flips upside down. And the 3% rule, you can introduce that in your relationship and be like, I have a 3%. And when I share it with her, she gets excited. And then you can use the tool of a part of me feels, like 3%.
Yeah.
Like a little part of me feels that you don't appreciate when I clean up the dishes. And those are the little things that can make your soulmate not feel like this isn't my person. Mm-hmm. Over time, it turns into a bitter root judgment, and before you know it, you're in the weeds and you're alone.
And it's also, based on it. Sometimes it's like, from my perspective, so you can use a part of me or from my perspective, because it's your perspective. It's not, we think our perspectives everybody has, but everybody has their own.
That's right. That's right.
So for example, if he shares from my perspective, or a part of me feels that you're judging this, then I can, and then it's your job when someone says I have a 3% to share, to center yourself and be available to hear what they have to say without having to defend yourself, without having to protect yourself, just listening to what they have to say. Now, it might hurt, or it might feel like you need to defend yourself, but the objective is to not do that, to really just listen, and then to say, okay, I hear that, and then just say, and then you can say, from my perspective, when you think I'm being judgmental, I think you're judging me, and that turns this into like this resistance, or so you get to breathe in and what they're experiencing, and then you do get to share your perspective, but it's your perspective, not like, well, you do this and that's why I do that, and like blaming. The minute you say you, like forcing them that they are a certain way because that's how they show up for you, then they have nowhere to go but to defend and protect themselves.
That's right.
And so I have been trained in being with really tough things, but it's a muscle, right? I wasn't always that way. So I've learned how to be that way. And for me, I know when he wants to share something that's upsetting him, all I can see is on the other side of this is more love, is more connection. And if I can really be with it and hear him and have him feel heard and seen and loved in the space of vulnerability, then that opens up a whole new world for us. And that, I'm always standing on that side of the things, when we're having a really rough time, anytime, even personally, when life keeps throwing things at you and it's like, oh my God, I've been punched again. And people say habits in threes and all of this. When things get really rough, I laugh. I really laugh, because I'm like, whoo, there is going to be something real good on the other side of this. I just don't know when it's going to come. And if I shift my perspective that way, then things ease up rather than getting into the pain or the sorrow of whatever's happening in the moment, because whenever we have a massive breakdown in relationship or personally, there's always a breakthrough to be had.
That's right.
You just have to be looking for that breakthrough, looking for the lesson that you're being taught, rather than like being absorbed by the pain that you're surrounded in.
And you can't have a breakthrough without a breakdown.
Yeah.
You can't. It's the only way. The only way out is through.
Yes.
And you really need to, and that's what I love about our relationship is we're constantly discovering sort of new things and new forms of communication. And you're never just happy with us being like good. Like you want us to be freaking amazing and crackling. And the soulmate feeling and the sparks has actually just grown into it. It's not like one day I was like, she's my soulmate. It's literally like a looking back over 7 years and going, this is my person. She knows how to make my coffee. She knows the little things that if I'm frantically trying to find a mixer, she'll know how to just be like, it's okay. Like, even though you can't find your mixer, you love and accept yourself. We have all these fun tools. But I just want to wrap this up, and I want, so this is a great conversation. If you're looking for your soulmate, what I'm really hearing from you is you get to create yourself and create the other in a way that you will have the experience of that yumminess of what that feeling is. And for somebody who's lost someone, it doesn't mean that was your only person. You can create the other to be your soulmate, and not to settle for what I'm hearing from you say. Don't settle for fine. That's like the ultimate F word. Like, don't settle for fine.
It is.
Like, you can have an extraordinary love and life that you love and body that you love, and it just takes you being curious enough to discover some tools. And we do offer a bunch of these tools. Like, there'll be a link in the description if you want to check. We do have some free videos. This isn't meant to be a plug for our show, but you put yourself in the work somehow.
Yeah. Read.
Yeah.
Read books around self-discovery.
That's right.
That make you curious.
Around relationships and around your body, like around finance. Like, get curious and turned on in life. And we offer a course that shares a variety, love and connection. And she does a mind strategy, and I do physical body strategy. And we're an ongoing course. So we actually have 2.5 months left. We wrap up when?
In September. And the 22nd of September is the last one.
And
but you want to get in as early as you can.
As early as
so
you
can get as much.
And you'll have access to the whole course where you can go back and look at every single tool that we've shared. But like I said, if you don't do our course, then just please pick up a really good book on relationships or search YouTube videos. But if you have an area in your life that's not working,
don't blame others for
it. Just do the work.
Get curious. Be in discovery. Be your own Sherlock Holmes, because happiness is created within. It's not external what other people can give us.
That's right.
There's incarcerated people that are the most beautiful, happy people in the world.
Yeah, Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, and so it's like it's not that they have something magical. It's that they are willing to be curious in the face of all adversity. And that's what makes an extraordinary person. That's right. It's curiosity. I love this conversation about soulmates, because I actually didn't know where you were going to go. I was like, do we have a soulmate? But I hope you really got something out of this. You can follow Kate on Instagram at, what is it, Kate Austin Alchemist. Kate Austin Alchemist. And then we have a Freedom Alchemist YouTube where this video will be. As well, on paulgreen.com, you can find all about how to get into our course if you would like to join us for that. And I'm Paul Green Official everywhere if you want to follow me. And anything else you want them left with? Just that, over time, Paul and I fall more and more deeply in love. And it's usually because we focus on all the gratitude that we have. We don't sit there. Very early in our relationship, I played a game because relationships hadn't necessarily gone the way that I wanted them to go. So I played a game with myself, and I said, I'm going to do the opposite thing that I want to do and see how that goes. And that you've done in the past. That I've done in the past. Opposite to what you've done. Yeah. And so there was one argument we had in the kitchen, And Paul was being a bit like, oh, I don't like how you do this and you do this. And I felt that rise of wanting to protect and defend and run for myself. And instead, I leaned into the pain and I sort of said at him like I was protecting and defending myself in a raised voice. Like I was like, well, there is nothing that I would change about you. And it disrupted something in like his neurological mind, like, what? Like, and you know, there's something Paul says to me so often these days, there's nothing I would change about you.
Took me a minute.
Yeah. And we do that. We really just like any little things that might be a problem. It's like, there's so much he's wonderful at it. We focus on all the gratitude and all the greatness of each other.
That's right.
And so then
we
both feel great
yeah.
around each other, and we keep infusing love. And it's like, it's such a fine line so early in relationships when we start nitpicking, and to cut that off very early is an essential tool to really having someone grow into your soulmate. And
growing into your soulmate, that's what it is. And at the beginning of a relationship, when you're all hot and bothered, all you see is the magic and everything that's good about this person. And then slowly, as time goes on, you start to, because you're focused on that, as time goes on, you start to focus on, they didn't pick up their socks. Oh, they left the dirty dish in the sink. Oh, they don't make their bed. And slowly you start to focus on all the things that you don't like about them, and all those beautiful things that you did like about them are probably still there, but you're not focusing on them.
And that's why they call it the honeymoon. Like, honeymoon's over, and it's all shitty from here. And that's just simply not true.
No.
Because our honeymoon is like more and more as we grow.
Yeah, and we're only 7 years in, but it's like I'm sure some of you watching have been married or together for decades and decades. So it's just whatever it is, your relationship, your body, or your finances, it's so important to do the work.
Yeah. And we have so many people that are in our programs that were just getting through life with their husband, just surviving their relationships, and now they have they've rebuilt love, they've rebuilt connection, and it is possible for everyone. So anything's possible, and just and knowing the tools and using the tools and being cognizant and being curious and in discovery, it's gonna set you free and have you show up.
Beautiful.
As your soulmate for you, so you can show up as your soulmate for someone else.
That is beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Paul Green.
Yes, it's hard to book you with your busy schedule. But please subscribe here to The Grass is Greener, because there's folks listening on audio on my podcast. You can go subscribe there, and please give it a rating while you're there. Also here on YouTube or wherever you're watching this, if you could subscribe and leave a great comment, that would be amazing. So until next time, remember to be kind and gentle and tender and loving towards yourself in your thoughts on purpose. And that fear is just what love is missing. So, okay, I love you, and we'll catch you real soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.